right. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live. So this is our first comment. He said, "Now y'all know this is straight lies. Don't know American women want no Africans like that. I've literally been asked by an American women, do Africans bathe? Knock it off with this bull." Interesting.
It's from 3:41 p.m. So they made a comment. Ignore it.
Our said Jeremy in the room. It may because of the eggplant. I have to keep it real. Oh my gosh. Wow. Put up my.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing this Monday evening? Thanks for joining us. Today should be an interesting, fun one. Everyone's going to be respectful and nice, but we have some interesting things to discuss. As you're coming in, please let us know where you're calling from. Don't forget to like this video as you're coming in. We want, a lot of people to join us while we're live. We want to have some fun, a good discussion. Please like this video. And we're just going to give it a few more minutes, let some people join in. We might actually let people call in this time because we usually don't have people call in. We don't share the link often. I think this time we'll try and be a little interactive and let people join, call in. But let's see how that goes. Um, you're frozen for me.
Something weird just happened.
Okay, now I see you. You were a bit frozen.
Okay, so we can start because people that watch this live is gonna be too much dead in the beginning. So keep going on and off. I think something's wrong with my internet connection.
Leave and come back.
Hmm.
Leave and come back and see if it.
Okay.
Hi, from Kaduna, Nigeria. Like, are you living there right now? Like, you're joining in from there, or like that's where you originate from? Because if you joining us from there with this time right now, you're a real one. Um, Kedu Odema Alotidi. Chimere Ucheya. Okay, so you live in Kaduna, I'm guessing, because your name doesn't sound like you're from Kaduna, if that's your name. But yeah, let us know. Happy you're able to join us. All right, so let's get into it. So
Ain't gonna facilitate this. I'm chilling today.
I don't know if you all seen our video that went live yesterday. I let it out late yesterday. Oh wow, yeah, and Niger salute to it's not easy. Thanks for joining us. So we had a video that went live yesterday. It was a snippet, a cutout about 20 minutes of our live we had 2 weeks ago. We were talking about, best time of the year to move. Of course, they're not related, but every time we talk, we get derailed and we start talking about, relationship stuff. That's what people like. It comes to a point you can't ignore the reality. People like that talk. They love it. So one of our subscribers
This
asked,
is the most annoying talk to have because it gets so
it's so polarizing.
yes,
It's
yes,
polarizing.
it's so polarized. That's the word. It's such a polarizing topic.
So a subscriber asked if we were raised and told to date and marry somebody from our own culture, our own country, our parents are from. We're Nigerian American. And if so, do we follow it and will we raise our kids like that? So it was a very layered question. And from there, we went into the responses. If you have not watched it, you need to go on that page and watch that video. It's doing very well. People are really liking it. But basically, this was a Black American woman, Black American, African American woman. You know that some people prefer to be referred to as one versus the other, and she had that question for us, and we had to be honest. You know, if you've been watching us, we've been on YouTube like what 7 years now. We don't lie on this channel, all right? It's hard. You know, you got to try and be as politically correct as possible. We keep it real. We keep it 100. So we had to be honest with her and tell her like the reality of why some people, because she mentioned it was either her or another subscriber mentioned they had a friend from Eritrea, and that's what they were told. So it is a common thing, and we're not going to lie and act like it doesn't exist, but there's a reason behind it. And even to preface this video, you know, we have to make these catchy titles to get viewers and to make people engage. But right off the bat, it doesn't mean that that African men don't marry non-African women. It's not true. It's not true. It happens all the time. It's in my family.
Especially in Charlotte.
Right. Even the ones who have came fresh off the book, they do it all, not for papers or anything. Like they just, it like legit, they do. But of course, if we want to be, you know, we're being real. If we want to sit here in reality, do the majority do that? That's another conversation. All right, especially because it's funny because I have to send my friend this link. Actually, we were talking on Saturday, and she was saying how she feel as if we're talking specifically about Nigerian men, how most of them prefer um oh yeah, Petra, that's fun. That was funny. That was funny.
All the girls are dating the same 3 African men in ATL.
So she was talking about how she personally feels if most, which we're going to be specific to Nigerian men because we are Nigerian, and that's what we can speak to. Most Nigerian men prefer to date a Nigerian girl, and I told her I don't think that's true. From my personal experience, I don't agree.
That means like 51%.
Really, what I said literally, this is what I said. I said for people who were born and raised in Nigeria, or born or lived in Nigeria, or both to a certain age, like maybe they came older, I could see that holding a little more true. Yeah. But for people born and raised in America, like me and my sister, my cousins, our guy counterparts, I do not think that they're going around saying they have to marry a Nigerian woman. I don't even think it's even a preference, to be honest. Men, y'all could come and defend yourselves. We need men. We need men to come in this chat, talk about, you know, your preferences, how you feel, if it's a requirement for you. I personally don't think I've talked to them. It's like to me, it's a nice to have. Like it's not a preference, it's not a standard, it's not it's none of that. But it's like, oh, if it happens, that's cool. You know, it is what it is. But I don't think that Nigerian born and raised men are going out their way to intentionally date Nigerian born and raised women. No, American.
Wouldn't you say most women don't have that?
Yes, for sure. And we're having a conversation, of course, yesterday with our cousins, and you know they're talking about she needs to she busy tonight, so I don't know if Justina going to be in here, but of course she always has to make her points. And I'm not arguing and saying that they don't necessarily date them, but I don't think they're dating them as their first choice. If all things were being equal, even the American-born Nigerian women, I feel as if all things being equal, they would prefer to date their own men. It would be a preference. Like it's a serious preference for the average Nigerian American girl. I think it's like it's a hard fast, like there's no debating it. But I don't think the same holds for the men. So if there's men in this live, please provide your input, provide your feedback. Am I wrong? Let me know if I'm wrong, because I'm everything is anecdotal to an extent, right? You're speaking based on the people that are around you and what they're telling you in the conversations you have. I don't know everyone, so I'm speaking from what I've heard and what I've experienced. I don't think that's true. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because in our last video, the video we just put up yesterday night, we said African men, the real reason why African men date American women and never marry them. Of course, we know that's not true. We've already stated that. And we're bringing that line up because in that section of the live, that was a narrative being pushed out to an extent that, yeah, they're told to marry their own. They're told to stay to themselves. They're told.
It's true.
They're told, yes, but do they listen to it? That's the point I'm making. Do they necessarily follow it the way women are more likely to follow it? I don't think it's true. I don't think it's true. All right. I know this is away from the combo. Please put your name in Ngozi. I'm Ngozi. I don't know. You're probably new. I'm Ngozi. The other is Nnena. All right. Top pinnacle. Do you both know what traditional Nigerian men are looking for in women in long term relationships? Can you both name them?
Hmm.
To be honest, I'm not a man, right? So I can only speak based on what I'm told.
I know,
What.
I know. I'm not a man, but I know.
Okay, then
Let
that's
me
all.
answer this question. So, in my personal opinion, I think that this whole word traditional and modern, I think these words are really getting thrown around a lot. And I feel like being in a certain society like America, it's very hard to be 100% traditional. Feel like everyone is modernized in a way, but some people are just more
It's a
traditional than
spectrum.
others.
It's a
Right, it's
spectrum.
a spectrum. I just feel like America's too expensive. Things were too advanced. Like even a lot of these men saying they're so traditional, they're not really traditional. It's just they're more traditional than the average American man.
Right. Right.
Right. But they're
They're
not
on the traditional side of the spectrum.
right. Like even me, I consider myself to be on the traditional side of the spectrum compared to the average American woman. But I work 40 hours a week. I'm not a traditional woman. Traditional women usually don't work. They're home with their
Well,
families.
I
Traditional,
mean,
like the real definition of traditional, like back in the day, yeah, like they're like home taking care of children. They're. I just yeah. But anyway, I personally think that like Ngozi says, I'm not a man, so I can't say for sure. But I think most traditional men are looking for a woman that's submissive, a woman that's domestic, a woman that
don't drive them crazy.
a
Those are the
woman
buzzwords.
that's submissive,
Don't say it.
submissive, domestic, feminine, a bit timid. Even though they won't say that, I personally think that's a part of the criteria. They won't say that submissive doesn't necessarily make you timid. So I think a lot of people confuse what submission means. Just because you're submissive doesn't mean that you're like quiet and reserved. That's not necessarily true, but they can go hand in hand. I think those are like four things. Like a woman that's not going to challenge you, like really respect. Number one, how can I? No, respect is number one. Submission, respect, feminine, domestic, and a bit like reserved, timid, quiet, conservative on that side. That's
That's it. Someone just commented that. I want to. What's that comment? Someone just commented in the video. I'm gonna read that later, but continue. So you think those are all?
Little Inez is back. Like I said before, the African American man is highly desired by women of all nationalities, not just Nigerian women, but also women from the Caribbean, Colombia, Dominican, Puerto Rican. In America, though, are you just talking about when you travel? That's the point I'm saying, because this is sounding like we said last week, like a couple of weeks ago, more like you're talking about when you leave America. But in America, are you saying the African American man is desired by this group of women that you're listing? That's
I
that's
think he may mean both. But clarify with him.
the Eagle passport is desirable. The Eagle passport is desirable. I feel like I kind of understand, but I'm not really following. But okay, guys, you can continue.
All right. The Eagle passport is American passport. We have the eagle on the first page. Like I think that's what you're referring to.
That's what I thought, but I was like, I'm not sure.
All right. So basically, want to continue this Oh, why does this email keep popping up? Sorry. So, we want to continue the conversation. I feel like a lot of times when we talk about these things, it's very hard not to, I guess, step on some people's toes, right? Because the reality is that if you're someone, like we said, if you desire, these African men, or you're a non-African woman, you're dating these men, I don't think it's fair to make it seem as if like you're going in with a disadvantage, or like they're not necessarily going to entertain. Like, because we said it's not true. But at the same time,
So let's flip it around. Let's talk about why I think a lot of African men actually prefer American women. Let's look at it like from the other.
before we get to that, Mia, she asks, why do you typically see African men with white women versus African?
No, that's not true. That's not true.
true.
If anything, Mia, what I can tell you is that what I notice most about African men is that they are the ones that don't really go to white women. It's Black American men that you'll see with white women. But I feel like African man, if he don't at least marry his own woman, he's gonna be with a Black American woman or a Caribbean woman, right? Or another type of Black woman. African men, I hardly see them go out their race. That's one thing I can give them. I hardly see them go out their race. I hardly see it.
No, I don't think that's. Yeah, I don't know.
Me personally, I've dated Nigerian women, Puerto Rican women, Dominican, etc. I travel abroad in a lot, and I met them here in the U.S. Okay, interesting. So, what are you saying, Ngozi, before I say?
I was saying that it's hard to have these conversations sometimes without stepping on some people's toes. I think the narrative almost is like okay, let's be real. Like we live in America. We grew up here. We've had a lot of friends who dated Nigerian men, and they didn't necessarily, or former friends that dated Nigerian men. It didn't really end up the way they planned. It didn't end up, it didn't end up.
And we've dated Nigerian men, and they end up the way we
But
planned.
I think that low key, they're always going to think that it's because low key that they're not from that country. That like there's always going to be a part of it to it. Instead of them just being like, we just had issues. Like
Right.
so maybe in terms of them not feeling like they really truly fit in, or like they really couldn't relate to certain things. Like I said in that live we had 2 weeks ago, you can't deny the fact that people from the same place have another level of relatability. Like there's another way they can relate with you. It doesn't mean that their marriage is going to work. It doesn't mean that they're going to have the best love and be hopeless, madly in love. No. But in reality, the reason why people of all ethnicities, for the most part, date and marry people from where they're from is they have that common ground. They have that common, that understanding. They can relate to each other on a certain level. There's certain things that don't need to be explained. Nana talked about reasons why she felt like, if she dated someone who wasn't Black, she'd have to be like a history teacher, African American studies teacher, teaching them this and asking them this and making sure they understand that. But if you're with someone that, you guys have that same cultural background, you don't have to do as much. So, period. I don't think it's necessarily bad for people to prefer their own, right? I think it's human nature. I don't think it's necessarily a negative thing. But the problem is that we're in America, people are so mixed now. It's different when you're saying, oh, you're in your country. And of course you're dating someone who's from your country. That's easy. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's the norm. But when you're integrating and you're interacting and go to school, you're working, you're around so many different types of people, you can't necessarily control who you end up with or who you fall in love with or who you end up clicking with. And you're not going to say, oh, I'm not, most people are not going to say, oh, I'm not going to be with that person because they're not from where I'm from. I don't think so. Especially men. I don't think they're going to do that. Yeah. So Mia Chica, we in Ohio, we see either African men with their own or a white woman. It's rare they're with an African American woman.
Interesting. That's interesting. That's good to know.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's turn it around because we don't want this to be dry. I personally think there's many reasons why and I think this is the service a lot of us like first gen girls are doing is that we're prioritizing a group of men who are not prioritizing us. Same thing with Black women in general. Black women are always prioritize Black men. Black men are not necessarily prioritizing us. So there always is going to be an issue in numbers. There's going to be a deficiency. There's always going to be a gap. Right? Because for some reason, it's not just an African woman thing. Black women do this thing too. Go watch our live we talked about is marriage for white people. A big topic that book discussed that a lot of Black women are not opening to dating non-Black men. And nothing necessarily wrong with that, but you have to sit down and say, what are your outcomes? You've been doing this thing that
Inez is saying they date everyone, and you saying that you only date your one type of guy from your one country.
My American friends, my American friends and coworkers, they be telling me like, Nnena, like you gotta open up your options. And I'd be like, I know, I'm sorry. I'm not. I'd be like, I can't help it. It's not on purpose. Like it's just what I'm used to. You get what I'm saying? If I'm here, I'm going to Nigerian parties every weekend, and I'm going to Nigerian organizations, and I go to Nigerian church, am I going to meet a Polish guy? Like most likely, that's who I'm going to keep meeting. I'm in space.
You better stop going
with Nigerian people. You get what I'm saying? Like it is what it is. But at the same time, I think it's not just an African woman thing. Black women as a whole, we have this issue, and it's not necessarily bad, but it's just like we don't realize sometimes we're limiting ourselves. So I personally think a lot of women, even my fellow first gen women, are a bit like, they feel as if, oh, I prefer this group of people. They prefer me too. But that's not, because I can't see you.
I know I just turned off my camera. My email.
So that's not necessarily the case. But I think there's a lot of reasons why I actually think African men go for Black African American women.
So what are some of those reasons?
I think, and I'm just being, because I can see it from both sides. I'm Nigerian and I'm American. I think, and this is issues I struggle with, even, shout out to my therapist. She's Black American. She be telling me about myself, like, Nnena, this culture is too much. We're in America. You have to find a balance. You get what I'm saying? My coworkers, same thing. They're Black American. Then you got to find a balance. I think why a lot of African men end up with American women are more free. They're less uptight. They're not so focused on marriage. They take life one day at a time. They're more fun. They're more women, because it's always looked at like a negative thing. But I'm telling you, I see a lot, especially in Charlotte, a lot of African Nigerian guys here. They be with American women. They're gonna end up marrying a lot of American women for these. Also, I think an issue in African men. These communities, our communities are very small. African men have issues, like all of us, but they have certain type of issues. They don't want a woman that anyone else has touched. They don't want a woman that anyone else has seen her underwear. Even if they've been with 100 women, they want a woman that no one they know has. So this is how African men think. They rather get an American girl that's been with 100 guys have seen her underwear, but no one he knows has seen it. Then be with a Nigerian girl. Let's say she's been with 10 people, but he knows one guy, one person has seen her underwear.
So are you basically trying to say that they put Nigerian girls at a higher standard?
Yes. Is that a question? Yes, it's facts. American girls, Nigerian men specifically, I can't say African men, I know my men. Nigerian men have a standard for Nigerian girls up here, but an American girl they'll take down here. Because they look at it like, okay, nobody knows her. Like, oh, or maybe she doesn't she wasn't raised with
the cultural component, upbringing.
Oh, because she doesn't have that. You know what I mean? Like even if she'd made mistakes or she didn't know better. She wasn't raised with those type of morals, or like, I've heard them say all type of stuff. Oh, she didn't know any better. Like what? Just because she's American, are you saying that she wasn't raised well? Because she's American, she don't have parents that taught her, gave her sense.
It kind of spins into the point you're saying about the cultural component. You have to be real. We say all the time, being raised as Nigerian women, even Nigerian-American women, we have to do a lot of unlearning in terms of being so like uptight. Because the standard, the way your parents, where you're raised, the way you're conditioned about just dating, relationships, love, like remember growing up, literally growing up, my mother's like, oh, stop falling. You're messing up your legs. No one's going to marry you. Like just dumb stuff. But it's like, we're just raised very differently. When in the fact that like the average American woman is not raised to just people being so judgmental and just watching everything you do and having to be so, so like cryptic and having to move a certain way. And you can't be
trying to be sneaky, trying to
you can't be caught out, and you can't, like, for example, right? I say it all the time. I'm Nigerian-American. I don't think I've
Hold on, Ngozi. Hold on. Tony asking a question.
Well, top pinnacle answer ask first though.
Wait, okay. Why Nigerian men marry non-Nigerian American women in large numbers? Can you give honest opinion why Nigerian men don't see Nigerian American women as their first options? I just basically listed things.
Access before you access, you got into their point.
Yeah. And then he said, "Hello, wait. Are you talking about Nigerian men born in America or American Nigerians?"
That's a good point, Tony, to mention. I'm talking. You mentioned this earlier. You may have joined a little later, Tony. I said specifically these things we're discussing to me is Nigerian born or raised men. So I'm not talking about Nigerian men born and raised in America like me, my sister, my cousins. To me, they're American. Like to me, I basically look at them like just as the same as like I feel like on average they're not really into their culture. I'm talking about Nigerian men who either came here after high school, came here for college, came here, at 25, at 30, like men like they're in America, but they still have some type of Nigerian upbringing. Like they still live there. They have that connection to Nigeria. That's when I refer to as Nigerian men. You're saying talk about Nigerian men born in Nigeria, American Nigerian. American Nigerian, to me, I classify them just like as American, basically, for the most part. Like I'm talking about men who have lived in Nigeria at some point in their life or are very in tune with the Nigerian culture. And I think that for the most part, Nnena's making the points because Tony made this comment. You kept referring to the underwear part. I don't think that the ones born and raised here, I don't think they're worried about as much of these things. They're not worried about,
They're not judgmental.
Yeah, they're not. It's the ones with that Nigerian culture, like the ones who are, like I said, born, raised there, live there. For the most part, they think differently. The upbringing is different. Their values are a little bit different. The way they see the world is different. And at the same time, you talk about just as a, he said, okay, haha, you're spinning as a Nigerian member, and I agree with you, because yes, like they're different. I'm telling you, especially being in, it's another breed. That's what I'm saying. Like people just classify it all together, and understandably so. But like I said, my guy cousins, even my brother, like they're so American. Like I don't, my brother, like
we tend to pick up the culture more.
Yeah, and that's why we made the comment before about culture really lies with women. Like literally, you're usually more of what your mother is because your mother is the one doing more of the child rearing. Like it really is, you pick up more on what your mother is cultural wise. So I think that a lot of men just, let me see. And if you're old, used up, and past warranty, please don't request new and unused. Hoes deserve.
Okay, that's what I don't understand about these men. Their body content is in the triple
Listen,
digits, and they're
and
worried about what women are
you prove a
doing.
point, and it comes down to the culture about people not worrying about the real thing, but just worrying about perception, right?
Image, that's big in our
Image.
culture.
The same man will go to the village and go get a woman who probably is the village prostitute, but they don't know who she's messed with. But you're judging a woman here that you know maybe a few people who are in her past because we're not 17-year-olds dating. Everyone has a past to an extent. But that's bothering you. It just does when you think about if you really logically assess it, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
So that's what it is.
It doesn't make sense. It's not just a Nigerian man standing to want a woman with few body count. It's just one man in general looking for. I don't think it's necessarily even comes down to body count because I feel like you could be a girl who slept with two people, but the guy knows one person.
Exactly.
The same. I don't think it's that. Nana's making a point about 10 and 100 underwear. No one 100, God forbid, even the 10. We're not trying to.
Just use those numbers, but I think it's more about them knowing who
about just knowing who you've dated. I don't think it's really about how many people you've messed with or didn't mess with. Because, like I said, the Nigerian man will go to the village and get a woman with that high body count. He just doesn't know. So it's not necessarily about that. Because the speaker Tony Gasser said, "Don't ever tell them your body count because they won't believe you anyways." Yeah, we're not getting into that conversation. Unless these men start posting theirs because they're sleeping with women, not men. Hopefully, then there'll be another conversation. But yeah, I think that in terms of the reasons you gave, Nnena, so what did you list? You list that they take life a day at a time. That's like I said at the time, culture, there's good in culture, there's bad in culture. Nigerian culture is not 100% good. African culture is not 100% good. There's a lot of bad to it, if we want to be honest. There's a lot of misogyny. There's a lot of this stuff, let's say back in the day, people threw away twins even. Like that was the thing. That's culture. Not all culture needs to be preserved. That's how I personally feel. You take the good, you throw away the bad. There's a lot of good in parts of the American culture. And I always say all the time, what I love about a lot of Americans, my American friends, we have sisters who their mother's American, the way they live life like a day at a time. Like they're not always so consumed with like the future and a million years from now. Just don't think too much. And we talk about growing up in that Nigerian culture, you're always worried about how people are going to view you, how you're perceived. People are going to judge you. Are people going to think you're wild? Are people going to think you're permissive? Even if you're doing nothing at all, nothing bad, you still have to carry yourself a certain way so people don't get the wrong impression about you. And it's very draining living life like that. Like I get it to an extent, right? Like we know there's a saying, don't dry your dirty linens outside. We get it to an extent, but for you to live all aspects of your life like that, it's very, very draining. Very, very draining. So you mentioned that part of it. You said they're fun. So you said they're fun. So you're saying you think that some African women, some Nigerian women could be a bit uptight?
Of course. Yeah, and it goes into you're worried about how people are judging you. You don't want to
Is that part of it? Would you classify part of being uptight related to being marriage-minded?
Part of it.
Okay. So, and that's upbringing, right? That's culture. So, what's another thing you mentioned? I think culture. You said marriage. You mentioned marriage. I tied that in. You mentioned.
I feel like American women are more free. Like they don't really care how you view them. They don't really care like how you perceive them. They're not trying to impress you. They're not trying to put up an image. They're just being themselves. And I feel like a lot of African girls have to do a lot. I'm not in that category. That's just I am who I am. But I feel like a lot of African girls may feel the need to have to pretend, or try to put up a front or try to kind of make themselves seem a way that they're really not, just because they want a certain result or they want a certain outcome. Or, have to lie about certain things or be a bit sneaky, you know what I mean? Or be like, beat around the bush, go around the bush, because if they're themselves, then they might not get what they want.
It's funny you mentioned that because I talked to my guy friend about this a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about how he was basically talking about specific to Nigerian girls because he's Nigerian, how Nigerian girls lie a lot, they pretend. When you're talking about certain things, even when it comes to like sexual, they act so offended, or like they're so quick to act like, you're not supposed to be talking about these things, but they're not innocent, but they just always like pretending. And I had to spin it back to them. Okay, if you are so concerned about Nigerian girls behaving this way, you as a Nigerian man have to create an environment where a Nigerian girl can feel comfortable being herself and you're not going to judge her. Because it's like, is like the chicken and the egg. They're behaving that way because they know how Nigerian men are. So if they can't be their authentic, because that same he made, and this is the comment he made, that same Nigerian girl would date an American guy and act completely different because that American guy's not judging her the way you are. So she's gonna be more free. She's gonna be able to be herself. She's gonna be able to not, but like when she knows her men. So if you're so concerned about Nigerian girl pretending and being this and that, then make her feel comfortable to be herself. Don't judge her. Don't start act differently when she tells you certain things, because as a result, whenever she's dealing with men like you, she's gonna start lying or not being herself because she knows how you're viewing her. So it's interesting you mentioned that. Mia Chica, in African culture, how is it perceived if you're a baby mama or baby's daddy, never been married? Mia, let me keep. We said in the beginning we keep it 100 on this channel. We grew up north, New Jersey. I say we're Nigerian. We're specifically Igbo tribe. Igbo. I'm specifying this for a reason because for the most part, this is my opinion. I think that Igbo people are known to be somewhat more conservative than other parts of Nigeria. So that's why I'm saying we're Igbo. To this day, I know one girl when we were growing up, who got pregnant and had a child and was not married. One. And today, I don't even know where that girl is right now. Like she fell off the earth. Like literally when she had a child, it's like she disappeared off earth. One girl. One. And I'm not a baby. I'm not 22. I'm not 27. I'm grown. I'm a grown woman. I know one girl. And to me, that's not a coincidence. That's just not, we're not going to sit here and get into politics, but I don't believe that none of these girls are getting pregnant. Okay. And I don't think that they're better because they're choosing to make a choice that another woman's not choosing to make. But I'm bringing this up because there's a cultural component to it, to answer your question. It's specifically for women, but even for men, because I could say straight up, a lot of women don't even want a man who has children. So I won't say it's just one way, but of course men have it a little easier because they usually don't live with their kids. But for a Nigerian woman, it's a big deal. Like it's not, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. It's a big deal. Like it's looked down on. Like it's not a common occurrence. Of course, is it happening more and more often now, probably than before? It's always been happening. Even think about historically how people used to even hide it. My mother talks about growing up and like there's girls that would get pregnant, they would just disappear and they'd come back. Then they would send the child to stay with the mother in the village. There's some crazy stories about like Nigerian women getting married and like their husbands never even knowing they had a child. Like I was watching this one live, I don't want to derail too much, last week about some girl was raised with like her grandma, and she went to find her mother like when she was like 20 something years old. Her mother was living with her husband, like 4 new kids. She found her house, went to the gate. Her mother gave her like mad money and told her, don't ever come here again. Don't ever come back here again. Like don't ruin what I've worked so hard to build. This is her child. This is not a stranger. So to tell you the length that some women will go because they know that the stigma associated with being a single mother or being a baby mama. Can you imagine that? So yeah, it's definitely not to say it doesn't happen, but it's definitely looked down on. Like I'm not gonna sit here and lie. And even for men, like I said, like a lot of Nigerian women specifically don't want a man with kids. Like it's a negative thing. Even the ones who are like 40 years old and dating, they don't want a man with kids. It's still somehow like, oh, he has children. Oh my gosh. Like it's like a negative.
So when you said that's facts, I'm Igbo as well. And growing up, I didn't know or saw a single one with a kid as a teen / before marriage.
I'm telling you, and I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying that, but
the women, I want y'all to know someone's in here looking for what he said. I'm African man looking for American woman to marry. So if y'all interested, Kwamina, I know is.
Kwamina, give us some details. We gotta vet you a little. Let us know a little bit about you.
What's your height? What you do for a living? And what's your age? Answer those 3. That's a good start.
Watch them. It was an abomination to be a baby mom or a baby daddy in my family. Yep, and for a lot of families, it still is. Is in African culture, how is it perceived to be divorced or not have a college degree or a good career in general? That's another one. That's another one. I think divorce is definitely becoming more and more common. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in Houston. I speak about in Houston. I've never seen a place where men are in their 30s and they're divorced. Like you meet men 36 divorced, 37. Like how long?
They really divorced and they just telling you they divorced.
That's true. How long?
Those people tell you divorce are still married.
When did you marry that by 30 something? You're divorced. Well, how long you been married? Did you marry?
Down here, people marry younger though.
I just like they'll tell me they have this many kids, that many kids already divorced. How old are you? Is it not 50 something year olds where you think, okay, they've lived life, they separate their ways, small boys already divorced. So I think it's definitely becoming more and more common, but it's still something that some people feel like, they don't want to marry someone who's been divorced before, don't want to be with a divorcee. They want, like, like, I think it's personal preference, but I definitely think it's more and more common, like, for sure, like, because we're in America, so people divorce more in America than somewhere like Africa on average anyway. So it's something that people have to, be more open to. Not having a college degree or good career in general. I think, for, like we said, Africa is broad. We're saying African culture, and we're trying to be as broad as possible because, everyone is not Nigerian. But, like, if I'm going to answer this question, I have to be very specific to Nigeria, right? Because college and school and that stuff is not necessarily like all Africans value it the same.
Right, that's facts.
Specific to Nigerians, school is a very big deal. Of course, and I think it's almost equal for men and women. So I feel as if maybe for some cultures, there's more pressure on the men to go to school because the men are the providers and they're the ones making the money. So a woman doesn't necessarily have to do that much. But I can say, from my experience being Nigerian American, I feel like it's almost equal. Like, I've seen guys try and marry women or date women, and these men are doing very well. They don't need anything from this woman financially, but the family still has a problem with the woman because she doesn't have a good career. They feel as if, like, what is she, the term we hate, bringing to the table, or like, it's kind of just like, what does she do? Because we talk about image, right? So Nigerian people specifically are very big on image. So your career is a big part of your image, like being able to come out and say, my daughter is this, my son is this, they're a lawyer, they're a doctor, they're, they're accountant, they have this job, they're engineer. So I would say that career is a big one for sure. Like, but it's not to say, men are not going to date someone who doesn't have a good career. End of the day, you're going to do what you want to do. But I do think it's something that Nigerian culture specifically puts a lot of value on, for men and women.
So let's answer the question for the title. Let's go to the title to those questions.
So I'll answer 21st. That's facts. I'm Igbo as well, and growing up, I didn't know or saw a single one with a kid as a teen. Okay, they answer that. Hello, by college degree means engineer, lawyer, doctor. That's the only three that exist. Yeah. So, like, people are being a little bit more open-minded now, but, like, basically you still have to have a good profession. So to answer the question, the real reason women prefer marrying African men. I thought I put the real reason Black women, but I think or American women. I thought I put American women in the title because I think it's specific, right? But I think there is. Okay, let me give y'all tea. We want to make this fun and interactive. Make sure you're liking this video. It's a Monday night. I made a video yesterday that's really doing well. We're on live with y'all today. It's not easy, so support us. Just
I was making my okra soup. I had to run and get on this live.
I haven't eaten dinner yet. I'm eating a smoothie. I haven't eaten since 1 something, because if I tried to eat, y'all not gonna see me on this live. I ran to the gym, came on here. I'm like, yeah, we gotta do this. So let me give y'all a little story. This weekend was fun. I don't know if my friends are on the live. I sent a link. But basically, Friday we went out. We was chilling. We were sitting down minding our own business. So I'm going to give So some guy comes up to our table. We was at Joey Uptown, and he's trying to talk to my friend. He's talking about how he's from Philly, blah, blah. We talk about Philadelphia. We went to Temple University, Temple Hours, Philly Stand Up. So we're talking. This guy has a drink in his hand. He's trying to act, after all of this talk, he's trying to ask for my friend's number. She's like, no, like, I have a boyfriend, whatever. This guy's talking, running, wasting. Even the waiter at a point came up, was like, are you ready to close out your tab? Because she could tell, like, he was just talking too much. He was a little off. This guy's an Black American guy. So
he didn't offer to buy her a drink.
Listen, he's sipping his drink, talking out here, asked for my friend's number. Didn't offer us anything. Next thing comes. I was like, okay, we've been sitting for a while. Let me stand up, stretch my legs. We see some table of guys are behind us. So my friend starts laughing, they giggling, they're looking at each other, making eye contact. We're about to pay. We had our cards out, and they gave us the receipts. And the guy's walking over, whatever. So he walks over. This guy talks to us not even for 1 minute. My friend's like, hide your card. So I wasn't taking it seriously. This guy doesn't even talk to us for 1 minute. We call the service, these girls, they knew what was up. They are girls, whatever. So they come, I was like, oh, you ready? And my friend's like, we're ready to close out. The guy was like, close what? Give me those receipts. for 1 minute.
Guys, anyone joining? This is the real reason why American women prefer
Listen,
dating marrying.
of course, this is a Nigerian guy. So he grabs both of our receipts, pays for our bill. 1 minute. Other homeboy was yapping, telling us about Susquehanna, Diamond, and Broad, and all the whole urban dynamics of Philadelphia. Talking, asked for my friend's number, and still didn't even offer her a drink. What is that? This guy comes, and literally within a minute, he pays our bill. So the waiter, I mean, our bills, it wasn't maybe 100 something for both of us. So the waiter,
100 something for he don't know y'all.
Yeah, it's like 100 something. So the waiter comes up after, and she's like, yeah, because my friend actually he tipped y'all because some of these men don't be tipping. She's like, yeah, she's like, okay, we good. He tipped you, whatever. So it was like, yeah, she's not from it. She moved here from Chicago. She's been here like a year or something. She's like, yeah, these African men be having money, girl. You better, like, she's talking to us. And I guess she doesn't know that we're African. So then my friend's like, oh, yeah, I guess she's like something along the lines like, yeah, we know we're Nigerian. And she's like, oh, I didn't know. Yeah, they be spending. They be having money. They be spending. They got money, blah, blah, blah. So it goes to the perception that a lot of, especially like I said, I'm in Houston. So there's things we see here, other people in other cities, they don't see it, okay?
Because I don't see it in Charlotte.
I know not
clean my glasses. I don't see it in
I know not Houston. So there's a reason why people have this perception. Because it's not to say all Nigerian men are spenders and American men don't spend. That's not what I'm trying to say. But if we're going to be real, we say it's a cultural component. It's not to say I'm not saying the man from Philly couldn't afford to pay for our bill. I don't know what he had. I don't know what he's packed with. He could have had the money. He just didn't feel like that was his job, or he didn't feel as if it was his. He didn't feel inclined to offer that for whatever reasons. But the reality is that Nigerian men are just trained and raised differently. Their ideals, their morals, their upbringing, their responsibilities of what they need to be as a man. Of course, they're coming from a very patriarchal society. They're used to doing it. They're not worried about what you're making or what you're not making on average. It's only when they come to America, like we said, there's a saying, is situation that makes crayfish bend. Like, of course, they have to let go of some of those traditional things to an extent because the economy, things like
it's too expensive.
Gas prices, gas went up 50 cents in like 2 weeks. Like, I'm in shock. Like, what is going on? Like, this can't happen again. Because I know what happened last year. It was like $4 at a point, $4.15. I have the screenshot in my phone. Things are too expensive. So the average earner, period, cannot afford to, especially when they're with a woman who actually is working too. Because if you want to flip the script, you're coming from a country that's patriarchal. And on average, women don't have the same employment opportunities as men. That's just facts.
Right.
They don't. They're not half of medical school intakes. They're not getting the big jobs that men are getting, contracts, oil and gas. They're a minority in the work field. So you can't expect, the average man knows if he marries a woman, he has to do more because he's making more. But it becomes a little different when it comes to the West. And it's like, you're making what I'm making, or we're making similar. So why do you think I'm going to do, you know what I mean? Like, and I understand it to an extent. I get it. So I think that a lot of Nigerian African men come to America and they still have those, even though they get a little watered down, and some get watered down to a whole nother level, because, there's another fear of women using you. Because in America, what the average Nigerian African man considers taking care of his woman, some American men look at as a woman using them. So it's like we said, it's a cultural difference, right? Mm-hmm. It's a cultural difference. What did Mitch say?
The only time African American men spend money on chicks is when they're trying to flex, or when they really like the woman, or if they have like a job where they just have it's like let me be quiet. Maybe if the income is, they just have a lot of money. Miss Murmur said, "Hey babes, I'm a little late, but I was cooking and watching from my phone. LOL, this convo. Yeah, she came right in time. But American women are ready for traditional men. No, caution.
Because that same man paying for your bill also comes with other things that some American women could look at as condescending, as being aggressive, as being controlling.
Controlling. That's a big thing American women say about African men. So let me give you a real story. So this is a bit interesting, but okay, I dealt with my first serious guy. I was at 23. And I'll never forget that when I met him, mind you, he didn't even work yet. He had only been in America like recently, but he came from the UK. So my advice is, if you're dealing with an African man, try to get one that's doing well off, that just came, so they're not spoiled by the system yet. When they've been in America too long, then they start saying, "Oh,"
we start telling them this one and that one.
so the friends will tell them. And I'll never forget. He told me, he was like, "My friends told me, don't be too nice to American women. They don't like men that are nice." I was like, really interesting. And then another thing I remember is that he would like, I met up with him. He tried to give me money for like the train. I was so offended. Like, why are you giving me money for the train? Did I tell you I need money?
Like, take $3. You better take that $5.
I was like, used to it, and set a standard. So I can understand now that in life, you got a standard, and now someone wants to take you away from that standard. I got used to someone, he wasn't even working. Like, he was still managing himself. He would give me money for my birthday. You get what I'm saying? He would pay for my transport. You get what I'm saying? He would give me gas money. He would give me money going on the train. And I was like, what, like 23 or something? So imagine now me trying to deal with someone, I'm 30, and he can't even pay for dinner. You get what I'm saying? Like, imagine, oh, someone's calling me. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Imagine how hard that transition is going to be, because once you get a standard, and I think that's why a lot of girls in places like Houston, Atlanta are getting spoiled, because they get used to a certain standard. So now they get used to men that are taking them to $300 dinners.
Taking them to say 48 just on the first date, taking them to Mastro's, taking them to all these places.
A regular guy, and he just wants to go and get Thai. He's still making an effort, right? He's still doing something. It's not like he's not doing anything. But imagine you're used to guys taking you to steak 48 on the first date, and now a guy wants to take you to $20 Thai restaurant. It's, you know what I mean? It's not bad, because at least he's making an effort. I've dealt with guys who don't even believe in going on dates. You get what I'm saying? So like,
he's still just say come over. They're gonna talk you to death and tell you to come over.
Right. So I think what makes it hard is that I think why a lot of women, American women, prefer dating American African men, is because I think that whole financial aspect is huge. Whether we want to accept it or not, or we can't.
It's not necessarily about who, like I said, it's not about necessarily who has more, because the same American man on average can have that money, but he doesn't feel like it's his job. That's the point we have to keep making. It's about what you feel as if expectations are. Same way even just think about what the average Nigerian person does for their family. Like, in terms of, they be making, people out here making $10 an hour, and you see what they're doing for their family. You be like, huh? Like, because they feel as if that's their responsibility. They take that on themselves based on how they're raised in their culture. I have to help my family. I have to help my cousins. I have to help my parents. So it's not always we're not trying to shade anyone to say like, oh, American men don't have, no. Because if we want to be real, most of the men, we talk about American men that are athletes, they have really high profile status. Most of them are American. So if we really want to talk in terms of Black men, it wouldn't even be a fair conversation. We're just saying the culture is different. The mindset, America is more of a, like, marriage, or is a partnership, right? A lot of African men, I've talked to Nigerian men, they don't like that term. They don't like that partnership term, because to them it's just like, it shows like like they don't want to be in partnership with their wife. They feel like that's my, like, we're married, we're together, but she's not my partner per se. Like, I'm her husband, she's my wife. She's quote unquote, submitting to me, or whatever language you like to say. So I do think it's not about what you have or don't have, because you make the point about how your ex, he wasn't even working. He was using the allowance his parents are giving him, and he still knew I had to do this and that for my girlfriend. But the next guy, maybe who doesn't feel as if, I'm supposed to do this for my girlfriend, may not use that money. He may feel like he may give you the valid excuse, like, I don't have a job. Mm-hmm. So why would you expect me to do this, that, or that? Because I'm not working. But he's raised a certain way, has certain cultural background, so he knows his job is, to do certain things. So that's how we say culture is very important. A lot of times people try to make it seem as if, oh, kumbaya, we're all, nah. It shapes your worldview.
She said, Nnenna's Nigerian accent be killing my life. Haha, really? I've been putting on a Nigerian accent? I never even noticed. Miss Mermaid said, but are they marrying? Tricking, but marrying. Who is marrying? Are you trying to say that, like, these guys are just spending on these women, but they're not necessarily marrying them? Is that what you're trying to say? She said, Ngozi, please do the Nigerian accent impression again. I don't even remember.
He's saying, Ngozi, in that situation, they make crayfish brand, how some of them watch a lot on it. It's true. All the things people be saying, come first and see whether you'll be thinking and moving the same way. Things are different.
Mia say you are right. A lot of women can see nice men as desperate or soft versus a man that's a bad boy. Don't show the care. I think, okay, this is, I don't fully agree. I get what people are saying when they say this, but I think every woman just wants a masculine man. And masculinity is tied more to, like, being a bad boy. I think that's the issue. But I think a man can still be masculine and still be very nice and still be caring and still be soft, but he's masculine. I think it's possible. It may not be the norm. It may not be common, but I don't think it's. I don't think I don't like nice guys. I don't like good guys. It's just I'm just not. Maybe I'm just not attracted to that guy. But I don't think it's fair to say that because a guy is nice or because he's.
But to be honest, I think it kind of goes both ways, right? Because if people want to spend that on women, we could spend that on men as well. A lot of men have the woman who's doing everything. She's nice, she's cooperating, she's feminine, submissive, all those things. But they'll be chasing the girl that probably does not really even into them or is not replying their phone calls, especially a lot of the night. Especially a lot of Nigerian men. The ones that are ignoring them is the one they'll be trying to impress, but the one that's following up with them, they feel as if they already have her in their palms, so they don't need to really do much. So I think if people want to make that argument, I don't think it's just a woman. I think it's a human nature thing. A lot of times, what's accessible or what's easy to get, we don't really value. Period. I don't think it's a man or a woman thing. I just think it's a human nature thing. Miss Mermaid said, yeah, when you said the guys are spending or doing $300 dates for those women not used to it. So she's making a point, Miss Mermaid. So those men could be doing all those things, flashing, spending, popping bottles, all this stuff. But are they marrying those women? That's the point she's making.
Even dating doesn't equate to marrying someone.
Yeah, it's not. We're talking about, are they marrying? At the end of the day, are they going to go to the village and get the woman who, never left her state and bring her here? You know what I mean? So I think that's a fair assessment, and I think that you never really know, because it kind of goes back to the point of us saying why Nnena stated earlier the reasons why she feel like the benefits, or like why a lot of men prefer to date American women, right? But at the same time, dating and marrying is two different things. It's two very different things, because a lot of the things that may be like, oh, we're uptight, or we're too conservative, or this, that, or we're this and that, may be the same reasons why the men prefer to go and marry those type of women. Because even a guy just made a comment on one of our videos about that. Oh, they go to get their own women from the village because they're conservative. Oh, my eyes. Sorry, something's in my eye. So, yeah, so I think it just really, like we said, there's a pro and cons. There's no one size fits all. Everyone is different. But I think that dating and marriage is different, right? It is, but I think that's also the area which makes a lot of women, Nigerian women specifically, struggle, in the sense that, okay, if they're saying that these Nigerian men are their preference and what they want, but the men are open to dating other women that are not them, even if they end up marrying them later on, then that basically leads to a drought for a lot of women. Because if you're sitting around just waiting to date because you want to get married, right? You're doing things the quote unquote right way. You're dating for marriage. You're marriage minded. You're just dating men who want to get married. But those men are busy dating women for fun, and maybe are going to get to that point later on in life. So who are you supposed to date?
The men who are ready. The men who are done having fun.
So then that brings the age gap.
Yeah, it is what it is.
That brings a significant age gap, because they most likely are not going to be your age mates. They're not going to be around your age. To me, those women are green, and men know it. So they don't know the game in full, and they still get played. What you mean those women are green and men know it? Like they
want money. I think that means those women just want money.
I'm saying the women who just want to be taken to restaurants and be spent on and all that stuff. Is that what you're referring to?
She has another comment. Look at the other comment.
Because men spending isn't new. Things like social media just exposing more women that they're getting bare minimum. But it's not teaching actual game. Sorry for the long comment. So because men spending isn't new, seems like social media is just exposing more women that they're getting the bare minimum. I think that's fair. Because I think it makes you now reflect on what the next person is getting or doing, and makes you now reflect on. I think that's a fair assessment. Do y'all ever hear from men your standards are too high from your personal life, or do you feel like your standards are reasonable? What I think you have to be specific with what type of men. If you're saying for Nigerian men, I don't think so. If you're just saying on average, I mean, for someone you just wanted to be married can be a high standard because they don't want to be married, right? So I feel as if it's like, I don't think it's necessarily about standards per se, but more of your values. Like I feel as if you and someone don't have the same values, it's very hard for you to think that they're being picky or the standards are too high because y'all just don't value the same things. I don't think it's necessarily a matter of it being you asking for too much or not asking for enough. Because to me, I say all the time, I don't think the average woman, maybe I'm like I said, it's anecdotal. I'm doing it based on the women that I'm around. I think some of the requirements are pretty basic, but people would disagree and say that it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think this pretty basic when someone has a decent job, is a Christian, has a relationship with God, is a kind person, doesn't cheat. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like five major things for someone who's like, whoa. Of course, when you start adding the more, I think what makes it picky is when people start adding more of the aesthetic things, like heights and all that stuff. And I think that's what really triggers, especially men, a lot of men. I think that's what really makes us start thinking like, oh my God, you want a man who's 6 foot when the average man is blah blah blah, or the money part, yeah. Because even what you mean has a good job or a good income is really relative. Because if we're doing based on what the average person makes, like 80K is doing well, 90K is doing well, but some people feel as if like that's average based on what they make. So I think it's the money part that can throw people off. Yes, because money is relative. Even though this is an average, money is still very relative. Little Ernest said, most Nigerian American men I went to married a Nigerian American woman. Interesting. Where you from Atlanta, right, Little Ernest? And when you say Nigerian American, is it American? Were they born in America, born and raised in America? That's interesting to know because we touched on that.
Places it's like that. It's just by happenstance. Like you said, you go into the same places. You grow up. You went to church with people. You go to college with people. Like it's natural that sometimes
you're in.
Yeah, it's a community that you're in. Is it makes sense that would happen. You know, just don't. I don't. Let me just be quiet. So I think we're gonna wrap up soon. It's almost been an hour. She said yes, green as a naive / new to men spending big bags.
Okay, Mia Chica, are y'all willing to lower any standards or bounds that you have or standing from what you want? To me, this is what I say all the time. I think people need to be very clear to differentiating what is a standard and a preference and a nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with standards, you should never compromise your standards.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like hardcore things that you just don't play with. Like they're not a guy having to be 6'3" to me is not a standard. That's a preference or like a nice to have. That's not. I'm talking about standard is like your core values. Like I mentioned,
you it's not a standard, Ngozi.
Yes,
but to me it's a standard.
It's a standard. That to like I mentioned in our last live. To me, a standard, a non-negotiable is like a Christian. Like to me, that's a standard. It's not a preference that a nice to have. It's a standard. I will not compromise on that ever.
Or being a kind person.
Yeah, or being honest. Like certain things like that. Those are like but like preferences. Yeah, I think at times some of our preferences we have to really analyze where they're coming from and how important they really are to us. But I think like I said, with preferences and nice to has, definitely you can negotiate those and be like, yeah, it's not that important, blah blah blah. But your standards, your core value, because you put standards or values, I don't believe in that, like compromising on those. And I'll tell you this, I've done it in the past, and that's why I'm saying it, and regretted it woefully, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. Stand firm like on your standards and values, but like also assess whether it's a standard or whether it's a preference. But I think a lot of people mix the two up. I prefer this, but it's not like, oh, if I don't have this, the relationship won't work and we won't be compatible and we'll never. No, it's just a preference, but it's not really based on anything substantial. It's just something that you like or you're attracted to or something that you would want, but it's not as important as you think it is. That's the advice I would give. Little Ernest, born and raised in America, but came from Nigerian parents, is popular in cities like Atlanta and DC. Yeah, because of the big communities. For sure. Like I said, I think it does depend. Geography, where you are exactly in America, is a big factor, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're in Atlanta, DC, Houston, Dallas, New Jersey, Brooklyn, all these places have a high population. We're talking about Nigerians specifically. I can see that being easy to do, even if you're not intentional about it.
Right.
Saying, like I said, the point I'm making, Little Ernest, is that I've legit had my cousin said she had a Nigerian girl tell her she's not attracted to men who are not Nigerian. Like, like you laugh about this all the time. Yeah, then you don't remember she's not attracted to men who are not Nigerian. Like
Really?
I don't think a Nigerian American man can open his mouth to say that. He's not physically even attracted to a woman who's not Nigerian. Like I don't think like that's the point I'm trying to make is that for men, I don't feel like it's as so like
It might be a preference, but a lot of women are making it a standard.
it may be a preference, and because they're in those communities and it's easy to see those women, they end up with them. But it's not to say if they met someone else they like, they wouldn't date them or marry them because oh she's not this or she's not African or she's not no. I don't think the American born ones take it that deep, like at all. Character is number one for me. Everything is flexible to an extent. Yeah, I think character for sure. That to me, that's part of the integrity part, the honesty, being kind. That all comes down to that's all a part of your character. Some people say, being a Christian, have a relationship with God, all that. It's very important because certain things just don't change, right? People are who they are for the most part. I think us as women do ourselves a disservice by always trying to change people, especially men. And I've learned to just take people for who they are. Like how you meet them now, if this never changes, will you be okay with it? These bad habits, this behavior, these things that you're observing, if it never changes, can you really deal with it? Can you take the heat? So character is very, very important. But any last questions? Because it's already been an hour. Oh my gosh, where does the time go? We just be talking, 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 talking. We could talk for hours. But let us know how you feel about this topic. The real reason women prefer dating and marrying African men. For women, okay, I think Mia, you're American. For women in the chat who are American, who are Black American, do you guys feel this way? If you do, can you give some of your reasons real quick before we wrap? Is this a myth? Is this a fallacy? Because someone made a comment very earlier before we even went live that this is a straight lie. Don't know American women want no Africans like that. I've literally been asked by an African woman, do Africans bathe? American women, do Africans bathe? Knock it off. So do you think this is just a myth with like social media and like
right. I think social media is kind of hyping it up.
Like major cities and like how Petra mentioned Jesse Wu making the comment about women are all dating the same 3 Nigerian men in Atlanta. So
African men in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, 1 is Ghanaian and 2 are Nigerian. Yeah. So do you think it's like a myth or if it's actually true? Because we want to know how we know how the average woman, a Nigerian American woman feels, but we want to know, like, is this true or is it just like, nah, this is just being.
I think what blew it up too was that lady that married that Nigerian guy. Oh, that's her name, Portia?
From Real Housewives of Atlanta.
That's her. Yeah, the really cute one. I think that kind of like made like kind of made things trend too.
I mean, their wedding.
And then Nene with her African guy. I feel like, like I'm being honest, I think it's become like more like a topic that people are bringing up. Like, oh yeah, like even I was talking to my therapist, she was like, yeah, like me and my friends be joking around like, yeah, we got to go get an African man. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's becoming more like oh, okay, yeah, these guys have money. Oh, they do this, they do that. Like,
I wonder how American men feel. Any American men in the chat? I wonder if you know what I mean? Because I feel as if what's the rationale behind having that preference, right? And if so, how does it make their men feel?
Look what Ernest said.
African American women marry Africans, in my opinion, strictly for their money. Interesting. Or their perception of money. Yeah, that's true. Or their generosity, quote unquote. I would say where I'm from, African American women don't think highly of African men, looks wise, career wise. That's a good point, Mia. That's a good point. We have those conversations. Can't get into detail, but I think I agree with what you're saying. Because I think traditionally it was like, oh, I think overall, for the most part, what I observe, I watch a lot of content influencers who live in Nigeria, and I always talk to my sister about the observation. I feel like Nigerian women are not into looks as much. Like, I feel like it's more of an American woman, like legit. I say all the time.
Nigerian guy told me he was never asked his height until he moved to America.
Yeah, like I'm telling you, I really feel like American women are more into like how you're dressed, your face, your haircut, your physique, like overall. I remember my one American friend in school, she said the first thing when she sees a guy, she'll say his shoes. That's not the first thing I look at. I'll tell you that she looks at his sneakers, see what type of shoes he has on his feet. This is the educated girl. Like, this is not this is a legit girl, a baddie, okay? The first thing she see a guy, she's looking at what is on his feet. My American friend. So I do think that because I'll be honest, I watch some of those videos. I'm like, these women, they have men who are taking care of them. They're making some good money, but it's like their partners really are not that attractive. I won't be on. I'll be really honest. I'm like, I noticed the difference, like culturally, like in terms of like what the average Nigerian woman would be willing to sacrifice, like looks wise, versus maybe the average American woman. I definitely can see where. So I see this comment, Mia. I think this comment makes a lot of sense. I think that yeah, and not necessarily just looks, it's overall appearance, right? Like you're saying, like having the right dressing the right way, because that was one of the ways you used to make fun of Africans, like dressing, looking like mixing colors and all these things, like like looking fly, having the flyest outfit on. But I think things are changing now because, like you said, we're so global and everyone is doing basically the same stuff, and it's different now. But I could see your point, Mia. I think that's a good point to mention. I would say from where I'm from, it's African hair texture. That's a no-no. The skin complexion is okay, but not too dark. So you think there's a colorist aspect to it as well? Like people wanting someone, okay, the look, okay. I mean, that makes sense, right? Because that's where some of the stereotypes came from and why people would say certain things about Africans, and they have a perception even to this day. Me and I get asked all the time. Even the guy that came up to the table and took care of the receipts, he didn't know I was Nigerian. He didn't expect me and my friend to be Nigerian at all. Like he would, and this is so like I get it.
He was shocked.
I'm not saying he was necessarily shocked, but he was like, I wouldn't think that. I wouldn't say he was. I don't think he was necessarily shocked, but he didn't think that coming up to us. He probably thought we're like two like American girls chilling. You know what I mean? Like,
but y'all are American girls.
Yeah, we're Nigerian American. Yeah, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, you mean like Black American, like African American? So I think that people still have this perception of a look, that Africans have a certain look, which we know, like we get where it comes from, but it's still a stereotype to an extent, right? So we get it. But yeah, this was this light is shining on my face. Any last comments? Tony, you in the building, Little Ernest, all the men in here. Speak for your gender. It's not that Chimeru chat. This name Chimera. Oh, it's Chimera. I think it's your first and last name. Chimera. The guys in the chat. Kwamina, you still here looking for an American woman to marry? I don't know if we found you one. But yeah. Thank you all so much for sticking with us and having this conversation. Like we said, we have a video that went live yesterday evening that's posted. Check that out, because this is basically like a part 2 or like a follow-up of that video, because we could see like a lot of people really had a lot to say about that video. But what do you think is the real reason women prefer dating / marrying African men? You can put that down in the comment section. We can finish up the conversation down below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and make sure notification bells are on so you get a notification whenever we go live. If you don't have that bell on, we will be going live. We can always change up times and dates and you won't know. So make sure notification bell is on so you can always be alert. All right, Nnena, do you have any closing statements? All right, thank you guys so much. It's been fun. And we'll see you guys next week.